If you're like most companies, you're doing more and more video. So today we're going to talk a bit about how to get the most out of your video content. And first of all, we're going to focus on what are the two types of videos that you could be creating and how to set up each one of those. So we'll talk about how to set up and host what we call a journey sequence video. And then we'll talk about how to set up and host an informational video. So let's go ahead and jump in. So first of all, what is a buyer journey sequence video? Well, that's a video that you want to use to facilitate your buyer journey. If you've read the revenue zone in chapter 5 in the Yellow Brick Road, you'll notice that we talk a lot about guiding the buyer through a process that you can control. Now, videos are not the only piece of that Yellow Brick Road, but they can be an important part of that. So in this example, let's say I have a demo video that I would like the buyer to watch, then immediately have them watch a testimonial video, and then after watching the testimonial, go right into a longer case study video. Let's just say this is an example that we want our buyer to follow, because we know that when our prospects follow this process, we likely get somebody who's ultimately going to become a customer. So that's what our sequence is leading to that goal of becoming a customer and what we call in the book the revenue zone. But either way, we're taking our buyer through this buyer journey sequence. So therefore, these need to be linked and put together. On the other hand, we may be just doing informational videos, maybe just like what I'm doing here. It's a video that's educational or informational. It's not necessarily linked from one to the next. So we're gonna do things a bit differently when we're working with informational videos. So let's get started by looking at buyer journey sequence videos and what you need to do to properly set those up so you get the most mileage out of your buyer journey. So first off, when you're doing buyer journey sequence videos, you don't want to host them on YouTube. And the reason is because, as you might be aware, at the end of videos with YouTube, they put up other video options and different recommendations. You don't want that when you're doing a buyer journey. The other thing is that YouTube, unless you have a lot of subscribers on your channel, you can't use URL links within the video to send them to another video. So what you want to do is use a hosting tool. I use Wistia. I'm sure there's other ones out there, but Wistia seems to work really well. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and build your two videos. So here's my demo video that I have here. And here I also have my testimonial video. So both of these videos are hosted in Wistia. And then I went ahead and embedded them on a page on our website. So I would also recommend doing that as well, is hosting them in a third party like Wistia, and then taking those files and embedding them right on your website. So again, we have the demo video followed by the testimonial video. So the question is, how do you link those together? Well, that's what you need to do in Wistia. So here I am in Wistia, and I've got my demo video here. What I want to do is I want to set up what's called an annotation link, that when they get to the end of the video, first of all, that they will move to the next step, which would be to hear the testimonials. And I can do that in a couple ways. I can do what's called an annotation link, which is what you see up here. And I can also do it through a call to action, which is what's going to show at the end of the video. So I generally want to do both of those things. So let's go back to the annotation link. And if I were to play this, you see that this link shows up here, and this will automatically take me to that video. And when I get to the end, it now gives me this bigger call to action, which is to, again, take that next step. So either way, what I've done in this video through Wistia is when they get to the end, I'm taking them to that next step. So let's see that actually live. Okay, so now we're going to look at this one live. So you see I have the demo video here. I also have down here the call to action to do the next thing. So I always want to direct them to the next step in the sequence. I'm just going to skip ahead here on the video, and you'll see here when they get to the end. See, now this pops up. I click this, and now I end up right on this next screen to watch the Arizona Part Master. So this is an example of creating that journey sequence. You're in complete control. The other thing too, by having it on your website, you can track this in your analytics. You can track this in your CRM, so you can actually see that, in fact, your prospects are moving down the buyer journey and the Yellow Brick Road that you are wanting them to go down. So there's a lot of reasons to do that. So this is how you set up that buyer journey sequence video. Now let's look at how you would best set up an informational video. So an informational video, unlike the sequence videos, do not necessarily have any links to them. Doesn't mean you couldn't. You could definitely say, as you finish one information video, a recommendation of another one, but you're not controlling that buyer journey like we went through in the previous example. And with informational videos, you absolutely should host them on YouTube, because you're going to want to get the SEO value of having them on YouTube and making them really easy for people to find. Again, the only downside at the end of the video on YouTube is they have those other recommendations, but you can set that up actually so that they only show your videos and they don't show other videos at the end of recommendations. But let's jump over now and take a look at how you would want to just set this up in YouTube. So just some quick tips when you're doing an informational video in YouTube. First of all is obviously put as much data as you can about what the video is in here. This will help with the search engine and so forth. You can also put in here, as you'll see, this 019. These are time markers. So if you just put in, in this case, 019 seconds, when the video is published, it'll actually hyperlink to that so somebody could move to that specific point in the video. The other thing is I'm a big fan of using thumbnails and using consistent thumbnails, especially around different categories of informational videos. That way, when somebody's looking on your channel, they can quickly see what are the videos that have a similar style or are in a similar category. And then you also want to make sure that you fill in all the other things. In particular, down here, show more, there's a category that you can fill in down here as well. Let's see here. That's also, again, helpful for to be found and searched for. And then lastly, as I mentioned, if you want to, you can put on what are called end screens onto your video. And what that will do is basically at the end of your video or anywhere, any 10-second increment in the video, you can drop in a link here that will basically encourage somebody to subscribe to your channel. Or if you did want to recommend another video to use here, you can drop that in right here as well. The reason you don't want to use this for journey videos is that because everything has to stay in YouTube. So this can only link to another YouTube video, and you really have less control over your analytics and how you're tracking that buyer journey and your prospect journey in your CRM, which is why you do it the way that I described. But if you want to do another recommended video, which I generally recommend because you want to keep somebody engaged with your content, you can do that here on what's called an end screen as well. So we could do another session, a much more detailed session in YouTube, but that's really some quick tips and hints on how to set up an informational video. And hopefully this has been helpful as you create and publish more videos in your business.